he started in Supercars was actually at Phillip Island. We were only talking the other day about how much we'd love to see Phillip Island back as an endurance event.
Yeah.
That must have been quite cool to come back to Aussie and then get a start with him, especially with Murph.
Yeah, well, it's kind of, that was really cool. It kind of came about from Paul Morris. So Paul Morris, kind of family friend, and he raced against my dad in Formula Ford in the late 80s, early 90s. He was actually Dad's teammate when he raced touring cars in the BMW, in the Benson Hedges, and Paul was in the Diet Coke. So when Dad was living in Melbourne, he often used to stay with Paul in Brisbane when he was up at the workshop at Norwell. So Paul, when I came back, helped us out a bit with my first year in Super 2 when I was driving with Sonic. I had Sirame on it. And the opportunity came up to the Enduros, and he kind of, got me in there to do the Enduros. And at that point, I'd only done 3 or 4 rounds of Super 2 in a supercar. And lobbed up at the Enduros with Greg Murphy.
Formula Ford too.
Yeah, at a Formula Ford with Greg Murphy. Like, it's not like you run around some back or, like one of the biggest names in the sport. Like, it was quite...
You can't fly under the radar if that's your debut, mate.
No, and it was quite an eventful. So we had Russell Ingall and Paul Morris in the other car. So the debriefs were good fun with those 3 and myself. I was the young buck.
You would have learned something, yeah.
Yeah. A funny story on that. That's where my haircut came from, because it's kind of obviously going bald at that time. And I remember Paul said to me, he goes, all right, I'll give you the deal on one condition. You go and shave your head because it looks ridiculous. So I rolled in the workshop the next day with my head shaved, and he's like, all right,
mate,
you're in.
I've got a full head of hair, and if someone said to me, if you shave your head, you're in, I would be shaving my head right now driving Greg Murphy. So that's pretty cool.
Funny. At least you were losing it though, and it wasn't like a bad bet where you had to actually do it to get a drive.
Well, he was right in hindsight, but
it's more aerodynamic too. Yeah, faster down the straights.
Once it's gone, it's gone. Yeah. Sidetrack, but those that hang on to it too long, just get rid of it.
Easy to say when you got a head of hair though. We've both got a head of hair.
Yeah, but as a spectator though, someone that has witnessed plenty of people go bald, whenever you see someone shave it, you don't see them the next time and go, holy shit, you're still bald. Like you see it the first time and you're like, oh wow, you've gone bald. And then after that's gone. So just
it's true.
Commit to it. But yes, easy to say, sitting in my high horse.
You just mentioned your dad's racing career, which was pretty good, but you're a 3rd generation racer too. So talk us through how your grandpa kicked all that off.
Yeah, so grandfather, he never raced professionally. I think he got paid in a few gigs, but he did a lot of rallying. He raced some Mini Coopers, and he wasn't in a position where he could really afford to go racing. So he did bits and pieces where he could, some Carloways, Motocanas, and bits and pieces. He did a lot. He actually worked on the BP rally, which is a big rally back in the day. Actually worked on Eddie Perkins, so Jack's grandfather's car.
Oh, wow.
So that was, it's pretty...
Because your families are quite close, obviously.
Yeah. So like Larry did a bit of stuff with my dad's Formula Ford and building engines and helping out. And my grandfather worked on Eddie's thing. Then Jack and I started go-karting together when we were 9, because we were family friends. So it goes back generations. But my grandfather was heavily involved in automotive and hence Cool Drive and racing his whole life. And, right up to his last 10 years, he was heavily involved in the VHRR, which is a big historic car racing club that runs the Phillip Island Classic and a few of those big historic meetings. And we have the club rooms at our Cool Drive office for the VHRR through that. And the whole family.
I'm actually a Cool Drive trophy winner.
Cool Drive trophy winner? What?
Island Magic. The Formula Ford trophy at Island Magic is the Cool Drive trophy.
Yeah.
And the first Formula Ford race I ever did was 2010 Island Magic, and I won it, and it was a Cool Drive trophy. So I'm on the list of Cool Drive trophy winners.
I don't think I think Taz and I crashed trying to win that trophy.
Taz won it a couple of times, I think, because I've gone through.
Sure
Lukey Yulden.
Island Magic.
Island Magic race, yeah. Lukey Yulden's on it. I think TD's on it. Tony Alberto's on it. There's a couple of decent names there.
No prize money, though, was there?
I did. I got 250. I've still got the check frame because it's the only time I've won prize money.
$250.
You've technically sponsored big too. $250 is huge.
And he's lending me a trailer to go to QR. So you're like one of my main sponsors.
Yeah.
This is great.
Biggest one he's had the whole time. I don't know though. Like, I'm first generation racer, and seeing how hard it is to come through, especially hearing your grandfather didn't have a lot of money to do it. It's like, I feel like going into motorsport, naivety is bliss. Like my dad, I think if he knew what it was before he started, like you'd almost go, fuck, I don't know if we'd do it again. And it scares the shit out of me if I have a kid that comes to me and says, hey, I want to race cars.
Yeah.
So it is unique, I guess, to be like 3rd generation now. But what is it? He's just a very competitive family that does back yourself. Like, you're massive in business as well with Cool Drive. So you must actually just be willing to...
Family's just very passionate about automotive industry and car racing. And, growing up, my dad was racing full time then. And so my whole childhood was just every weekend at a racetrack. We weren't going to footy games or anything like that. Like most kids, every weekend was at a racetrack somewhere in the country doing something. So it was just, I didn't know any different.
Like it's normal, everyone just races.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it was. There was never any question of doing anything else or being involved in anything else. Like you said, I think Dad was aware of how much it costs and what's involved. So, you can start racing go-karts, as you know, at 7. I wasn't allowed to start racing till I was 10 because Dad's like, you need to go and play footy and
try everything else.
Let's try everything.
Yeah. And then it got to
I'll get as many pair of footy boots as you want.
And then I remember getting to my 10th birthday and Dad goes, so what do you want for your 10th birthday? And I remember going, what do you mean? What do I want? I'm turning 10. I go-kart. Yeah, go-kart, aren't I?
The other shit was just wasting time, Dad. Now I get my car.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, well, that didn't work. And then here we are.
Right. Now he's 3 years behind the 8 ball, damn it.
Yeah, that's what I was like. And then I got to the go-kart track and found out everyone else could start with a 7. I was like,
this is bullshit.
I've got to catch up. And it's like, I was so jealous of all those kids because they'd have like 3 years of experience and I'm wobbling around my P plates. And it's like,
I did start very young myself. I was like 7. Because I started on motorbikes when I was little, knocked myself out my first race. I think I was like 5 or 6. And then Mum and Dad were like, okay, 2's not for him. Let's try 4 wheels. Yeah. So I was like, when kids were rolling in at 10, I felt amazing. It's short-lived though. So I was the flip side. From like 10 to 10 and a half, thought I was a gun. Yeah. And then everyone starts to catch up. But I started quite young. And the grand scheme of it, I'm like, so many people start at 12, 13, 14. And I don't think it's that big of a... I mean, it's great when you're young. It's fun. I think you're learning between 10 and 14 is so much that like really 7 to 10... I loved it, but it's not that you're pouring cash into it anyway. You're just having some...
I was 13 and about 40 kilos overweight, so that was a good time.
Were you the kid that wore the hoodie over your suit? You did, didn't you? Do you remember that in karting?
I was trying to strip as much weight as I could. I even bought a Dino because I was 5 kilos lighter. They were made from magnesium or something to try and like get at least closer.
I can see Elliot as one of those kids wearing his race suit to the racetrack in the morning.
Oh, 100%.
Mate, you'll be at the 7-Eleven on the way home getting a Slurpee.
Macca's drive-through. I was a big Johnny Goss fan early, mate. Yeah.
I was proud as punch to have my race suit. Fast forwarding then, you're growing up now and co-team principal with your dad, which must be cool, but you're also COO of Cool Drive Auto Parts. So how do you... I was curious straight about how do you manage the time between the two? Because we know, I've been asked by fans, like what do teams do between events? Some don't realise that it's a full-time gig and there are teams busting their nut just to make it to the next race and to then be running Cool Drive, which is mammoth as well, or working within that group. How do you go about doing that?
Our structure is we've employed this year Kate Harrington to run the race team, so she's employed as the team manager. So we leave as much of the day-to-day running as we can to her, and then a lot of the race team, the BRT race team, is at the back of the head office of Cool Drive. So it's all the same building. So I just kind of treat it as another part of function.
Cool
I oversee some of the sales and marketing functions, some of that, and so we have a head of each of those departments, and so I just kind of treat Kate the same as the head of any of the other departments, but obviously very passionate about it. So the time split between BRT and my Cool Drive role is probably not where it should be. You kind of, because you're so passionate about BRT and it's so competitive and you kind of have a bad weekend and you naturally want to spend a few more days than you probably should fixing that. And so it's always a balancing act.
Was that one of, because this is the first year that you're not going to be on the grid for Bathurst or Sandown as a driver in the race. Was that some of the reason to why?
Well, I always, even when I was racing full-time in Supercars, still worked at Cool Drive and stuff. So I'm kind of used to balancing it. But the last probably 2 years, my responsibilities within the Cool Drive business have grown quite a lot. And then the race team's grown quite a lot, going from 1 car to 2 car. And, all our funding and everything we can gather for the racing goes into developing the race team. So I haven't been able to do any racing myself the last 2 years. And to be honest, last year I just, didn't have the time to do any training leading into it. Didn't get to do any racing leading into it. And I just got to, it was good having Sandown, but just even got to Bathurst where it's a lot tougher track. And I just felt like end of it was kind of getting there, but I spent the whole weekend just felt like I was playing catch up and letting the team down. And I just thought, well,
even publicly,
I don't want to go.
It's not a good feeling. Like when because that's one thing that's probably like fans don't appreciate is like for athletes, like there's a heap of pressure. And when you do turn up to a weekend, especially if you know deep down you're actually not able to put in the effort to get the reward, because it's a brutal sport and fans are pretty critical as well. And if you turn up and you're not doing what you think you can, like on track, you're not getting the results. There's one thing of letting your team down, but then it's also like putting yourself through that shit. It's not really worth it in the end. Like that's how I felt at the end when I was putting in as much effort as I could, but I didn't feel like, whether right or wrong, we're all going to say we're as good as we think we are. But I felt like in the end, I'm not in the best team in pit lane.
Yeah.
And just copping it every weekend, I just got to the point where I was like, it's not enjoyable anymore. It's not why I do it. Is that something as well you just felt like in the end?
Yeah, well, that's probably more why I stopped full time.
Right.
Because it was, to a point where I'd done it for a few years. Results were okay, but not great. And it kind of got to a point where, right, well, going into next year, what's going to change? Like everything going into next year, everything's the same. Results aren't working. So if I'm not doing we're not approaching it with any differently.
Yeah.
Results aren't going to get any better. And it's just, when you're running around in the back half of the grid and it's just, and you put all this effort in and you just kind of like bang your head against the wall and what for. So I've been very fortunate that we had the BRT and the opportunity to build BRT. So I still feel like I'm involved in it. I get just as much enjoyment out of running the team as I did as a driver. So, I'm very fortunate where I don't have to kind of go cold turkey or, got lost to the sport. I'm still feel like I'm involved and have just as much influence in racing as I did before. I'm just wearing a different hat.
Yeah.
But
I said that
the
to
same
Elliot.
level of
Like, we've talked over the bar because, like, Elliot would give his left arm to be full time and probably more, even shave that luscious head of hair.
Shave my head, give a left nut, left arm, left leg. What we got to do? Let's get it done.
But I did say, like,
you got an opening coming up?
But I did say, like, after a while, we're so competitive as individuals. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it anyway. If you don't feel like you're in an environment where you're going to actually get a trophy or be in contention to get a trophy, it's still motorsport. Shit goes wrong, you might not get it. But after a while, you start going like, and I was exactly the same, mate. Like that's where I rang Jamie and I was like, because I was probably 2 years where I was thinking nothing was changing. We kept getting told we're in building phases and I'm like, okay, I'm turning up to the weekend. We're being told like if we could get a top 10, it's great. And I'm like, after 11 years, I was kind of like in the same spot of like, well, nothing's really changing here. I do want to try and get in a better situation because that's something too. Like you get online where people are like, it's the best job in the world, and it is, but it does become your job, and you still want to have some success. Like even my first win was 165 days I lost for, effectively. It's like, imagine turning up to work and losing 165 times in a row to get one win, and then you don't know when the next one's coming. Like it's madness, but it's cool that you can still be involved. Like that's for me, co-driving now this year with Red Bull. I was like, try and get in the best team in pit lane, try and win a race. If not, it's still motorsport, might not happen, but go back to trying to find the love of it again and then see what happens from there.
Will you jump in anything, mate, just to scratch that itch? Like you've got obviously the Super 2 program. Are you going to do some stuff just to get behind the wheel? Or?
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those tough ones is that, we all know motor racing costs money and I'd love to personally. I miss
2-car Trans Am team, you and me, baby.
Maybe.
It actually looks quite fun.
I want to have a driver.
Come have a steer of my thing. Well, you've let me a trailer, so I'll have to give you a drive of my
I
thing.
believe you got offered a drive before me.
I haven't told you yet, but that was the condition of the.
Hey, that's fine. I'm happy with. I'm more than happy with that.
But I kind of wanted to do some racing personally because I miss it and I enjoy the challenge of it, and hence doing some laps in the Super 2 car the other day. But also it costs money, and I'm kind of the view every kind of cent that we allocate for me to go racing is money we're not putting towards making the race team better and getting better results. So I'm kind of feel like I'm a bit caught between, the business needs and my personal needs. And right now, being growing, and you mentioned growing phase, but you're going from 1 car to 2 car. We're very much in that growing stage. Just BRT needs everything, every resource available to it to get itself in a more established position.